So it's my great pleasure to invite Magen Hanrahan to join me on the stage, who is the VP of Media and Marketing for Kraft Heinz, where all these wonderful brands and products come from. So Megan, would you like to join me on stage? Let's give her a round of applause. Hi.
Thank you.
Great to have you.
Yeah, of course.
Have a seat. I thought I'd make you feel at home here.
Yes,
We have a few of the brands.
A number of these are in my pantry at home. So,
Wonderful.
yes.
That's fantastic. So Megan, tell us a little bit about you. You come from a long line of media-savvy people, I understand.
Yes,
So,
my dad worked at Leo Burnett and then led global media at Coca-Cola. I had no choice but to get into advertising in high school and even as early as junior high. He would we'd be watching television and he'd say, what do you think of that ad and who do you think it's targeting? And as a kid growing up in the 80s advertising world, there were a lot of fun aspects to extra things that we were able to go to. And I thought, well, I either want to be an actress or in business, and rather than waiting on tables, I decided I would eat at the nice restaurants and be a business major. So that's what I did. My sister's in the industry too. And actually my husband, when he was 10 years old, had to promise his father he would never get into advertising because my father-in-law owned his own advertising agency as well. But he married into it anyway.
Oh, wow. So it really runs in the family.
Yeah, for sure.
You're a mad family, mad men family.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, you run media for Kraft Heinz, so over 60 brands, which is really impressive. So tell us a bit about how you're using data. I know you've told me that you're sort of ruthless when it comes to data-driven marketing at Kraft Heinz. So why don't you tell us a bit about what that means for you and what you've done since joining?
Yeah, for sure. So just a little bit about Kraft Heinz. It's the 5th largest food company in the globe. We have $8 billion brands, and here in the US, 98% of households have at least one Kraft product. So we're really pervasive here in the US. And our approach to data is just what you said. We are almost maniacal about how we are using data, but we're really leveraging the data to accomplish the right goals for the business. So as we think about our media and marketing spend, we divide up how we are activating dollars based on specific jobs to be done for the given brand. So in one area where we are, again, ruthless on data-driven is to derive additional efficiencies so that we can invest in more brand-building activities. So, finding the right person, sending them the right message at the right time, at the right price, to be able to afford dollars to spend elsewhere.
Okay. So what about, using your own data and then combining that with other sources? Because I know you've got some incredible sources of first-party data, like Kraft Recipes, for example, which has got a huge following, I understand it.
Yes, so craftrecipes.com, I mean, we're so lucky that we have a really expansive platform with tens of thousands of recipes on kr.com, as well as a very healthy email subscription base, and we actually publish our own magazine that is 100% paid, a million subscribers, which is fantastic. So one of the things that we did very early on in our data journey was think about how we could leverage the data we had online to categorize people in certain ways. So whether that's somebody who's looking for kid-friendly meals and tagging our recipes appropriately or different tips and tricks on the website to be able to capture those people and then activating them in the marketplace. We've also created our own data. So I remember in 2014, we were launching a spicy SKU of cheese, shredded cheese. We thought, gosh, how can we find people who are already predisposed, knowing that from our internal research, the first-party data audiences are the most efficient and effective from a sales perspective. So we quickly found the recipes that would lend itself to a more a consumer
audience.
Yes, exactly. And then found those people elsewhere on the web.
Fantastic. And you talked to me a bit before when we were chatting about building fans, super fans.
Yes.
And how you've gone about identifying who those super fans are using data.
Yes. So Velveeta is actually a perfect example of this. So Velveeta cheese is a unique product, and it has a very passionate audience. We call them Vel Nation or the Vel Superfans, as you mentioned. And it's one of those products, too, that you either really love Velveeta and can't live without it, or you're just not in the category or interested at all. And so that gives us a really interesting challenge. So when we think about building our audiences, obviously the person who purchases Velveeta is most important to us. We can't just scale out to a demo because that would really leave a lot of waste for us, given the kind of polarizing nature of the product, if you will. So one of the things we did is taking that seed audience from Oracle and really understanding those purchasers, looking at other behaviors that we see from them, purchase basket, other behavior, and then finding them in the web rather than just going to an automatic demo, helped to increase our reach against the right people. So we increased our reach by 37%, as well as our effectiveness. So it was over 30% more effective than the conventional wisdom of just scaling to the demo audience.
Wow. So you sort of took an ideal customer profile and then looked at the attributes using the Oracle Data Cloud to help you.
Correct.
And then targeted them specifically. Because you were telling me, you're so efficient in terms of how you're spending your media budget. It's absolutely critical that you're spending the budget against the right audience.
Exactly. And actually, when we think about our journey, our data journey that we started in late 2012 and how we went about it, one of the things that we wanted to learn was the value of different audiences for our different brands. And so one of the things that we saw is there's no one-size-fits-all right audience. But the thing that kept coming back over and over again is these purchase-based audiences that we were leveraging from Oracle really drove the highest return on ad spend. So how can I maximize that as much as possible? And that's where we've done a lot of test and learns to figure out how we can augment our segments accordingly.
Yeah, you were talking a bit about that. So you kind of set up a test lab, which is interesting because I did the same thing at Oracle, actually.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about how you set that up and how that helped you kind of build a connection with management about what was needed to do data-driven marketing.
Yeah. So another part of our journey together early on is Kraft Heinz went to Oracle and actually asked for something that was not for sale, right? Not on the shelf, because we had an idea of how we wanted to leverage data moving forward within our enterprise. And that lent itself to a unique partnership and access to data that has allowed us to create these incubators. So whether it's understanding the value migration of an Oscar Mayer Deli Fresh customer and understanding when somebody is coming in and out of that purchase, what other purchases might be linked to that, to be able to find the right people and hit them at the right moment where they may actually exit the category. So that's just one of the examples of the various test and learns where we're trying to make the most out of the data that we're leveraging from.
Yeah, actually, you just reminded me of something. I was going to do something and wear this T-shirt. I was going to wear my Oscar Mayer T-shirt, but I figured that might be a little embarrassing. But this is actually one of your great brands.
Yes, and the Wienermobile is iconic.
The Wienermobile, I better pronounce that correctly.
Yeah, there are 6 of those that drive around the US.
This is actually a little gift for you. In case you don't have your own Oscar Mayer T-shirt, then you have one now.
Thank you.
So you've been doing some things with the Oscar Mayer brand, actually, haven't you? Trying to position it in a more healthy way.
Yes.
So again, tell us about that and how that affected your strategy.
When you spoke to the first question of like ruthless and the data-driven, one of the other things that we invest in is not just in the marketing, but in also improving our products, right? So last year, Hot Dogs went through a huge renovation, no nitrates, no preservatives, et cetera, to really refresh the Oscar Mayer brand to meet consumer demand. Because at the end of the day, all we want to do is build the best consumer experiences, and that starts with our product, and it ends with our marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. Just coming back for a second to the test lab. So what was a really interesting insight that you got when you ran some of those tests? Did you have an aha moment or something you really didn't know that you found through doing that work? A surprising thing that you found out maybe about your customers?
One of the things, it's interesting. Our marketers oftentimes say, oh, well, we have all the segmentation we need. We don't need anything else. And through audience segments workshops, we can unlock new things about our customers that they haven't necessarily thought about. And so that's something that we're actually trying to push with the marketers, is to leverage different data than they continue to go back to, like bring something new into the fold to unlock something a little bit more unique that is more actionable in the media landscape.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And actually yesterday during one of the keynotes, I can't remember who said it now, but someone said, it doesn't matter what we think, it only matters what the customer thinks. And that's essentially what your data is giving you access to, the insights you need.
Exactly.
So let's talk for a second about global. So obviously you've built really good segmentation structure and a data structure for your targeting in North America. How are you going to take some of those lessons and take them more internationally?
Yeah, well, obviously it's a lot more challenging internationally, just given all the data privacy laws on a market-by-market basis. So what we want to do is replicate our data-driven routines and rituals, which are the practices and habits that we have internally, to look at data, action upon it, and optimize accordingly. So those principles can stay the same in terms of what we find valuable from our customer. But we've had to get really creative with you in terms of what other ways in do we have. So there's a great case on soups in the UK, where we were able to leverage soup's global purchase-based data and make the hypothesis that a soup purchaser in one place and another place have similar behaviors or maybe even similar need states, right? Soup serves that need for the consumer, and target them accordingly based on a global data set. And so we've seen great success with that case study. And that was our first with a new agency who we just began working with in the UK in January, as well as working with Oracle in a non-US market.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah, if you want warm soup in the winter, you're going to want the same thing, right?
Yes.
In the cold
it's a
British
bit of a
winter.
ubiquitous product.
Yeah, I could see that, absolutely. So you've obviously been on an incredible data journey, right? You started leading the account for Starcom, and then Kraft Heinz persuaded you to join. And what were you hoping to achieve when you joined, and what would you kind of highlight for everybody as your sort of top 3 insights from this journey that they could all learn from?
Yeah, so when I joined Kraft Heinz, actually, I still talk to the Starcom team obviously every single day because they're our agency of record, but I didn't leave because I was unhappy, right? You should never leave a job because you're unhappy. But I was running towards something that was going to round out my skills as a marketer. I had a very narrow media role at Starcom, but within my role leading the central marketing organization that has expanded exponentially beyond media. So that in of itself has been a huge growth opportunity for the past year. But when I think back to our data journey and where we started, or my 3 things, the first thing would be to really focus on simple things that you want to accomplish. You can't boil the ocean, right? So what am I going to do this 6 months, this 9 months, this year? And we were very focused on what we wanted to do. And some of that was just cleaning up our data, working on infrastructure, having a standard set of KPIs across our brands. But then we also said, what case studies do we want to come out of? So what are the things that we actually want to learn? But we didn't pick too many. We just had a few.
Very good. Stay focused.
Because every time you start to unwrap the onion, there's a lot more stuff.
You can kind of get lost sometimes, can't you?
Sure.
You've got to stay focused, you're right.
For sure. The other thing that I would say is leave room for risk. And I recognize that can be really hard, and we see that with our own brands who don't have a lot of marketing support, so every dollar does make a huge difference. But you do need to open up to new ideas, whether that's new media channels or marketing channels for the consumer, new data application, but to really test and learn and not close yourself off to just what I did yesterday. In a business like us, who I think about a number of our brands, we really need to drive relevancy with a younger family. And if we kept doing the same thing we did yesterday, we would never win them over. And then the third thing I would say is marketing is fun. You should have fun.
Totally should.
And the only time that I've ever worked on an account where, the term "you're saving lives" here actually meant something was when I worked on the U.S. Army account for 6 years. But other than that, this is a fun business, and we are really lucky to work in marketing and advertising. We get to work with great people. We get to understand consumers, and it's a fun business to be in. So make sure you take advantage of that too.
Absolutely. Well, great. That's absolutely fantastic advice. And working with over 60 brands must be incredibly good fun, actually.
It's a juggling act.
I was reading about Philadelphia recipes, actually. I was reading up on, there's a lot of different ways to use Philadelphia. For fun, with the kids, if you're entertaining. I've learned a lot.
Yes, actually, that was the first time we ever executed an addressable print campaign leveraging our first-party data. We found that Philadelphia consumers, there were very specific need states that Philadelphia served. So working with one of our publishing partners, we took our first-party data, matched it to their subscriber data, and sent the right message in the printed publication to the right subscriber.
That's awesome. I understand there was quite a big uplift in sales as a direct consequence of that. So
yes.
Fantastic targeting. So you heard it from Megan. Make sure you're connecting the data in your environment. I think that's sort of job one for us all as marketers. Let's make sure we're connecting data across sales, service, and marketing. I think being agile and testing and piloting what you're doing is really critical. Take some risks, have a sort of safe space, and try things out. And then thinking about your whole customer journey, I think, is probably a critical thing you've done so well at Kraft Heinz. So many thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
We can have some snacks afterwards, but it was lovely to have you here. Please join me in thanking Megan.
Thank you.